It's been several years since the ICO craze of late 2017 caused companies across many different industries to investigate whether or not blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies should be a core part of their business models. In fact, blockchain and crypto were so explosive that some companies didn't even bother to investigate at all. They simply added the word blockchain to their names. Since then, understanding of what blockchain is and what it can do has increased considerably. Arguably, it's only now that blockchain protocols are beginning to be built and used in practical, meaningful ways on a widespread scale. Interestingly, while the imagined blockchain and cryptocurrency integration of several years ago seemed very tech-heavy, with end users dealing directly with tokens and blockchain transactions, the projects that are being built today keep the tech side of things as hidden as possible and the end user experience as simple as can be. As the UX of blockchain and cryptocurrency improves, so too does its range of use cases. Recently, Finance Magnate spoke with Justin Banon, chief executive and co-founder of the Boson Protocol, about a growing sector of the blockchain and decentralized finance universe, dCommerce, or decentralized commerce. The Boson Protocol is a dCommerce platform that allows its users to exchange digital value in the form of crypto tokens for real-world products and services without having to trade their tokens for fiat. Justin spoke with us about the Boson Protocol, about decentralized finance game theory, and the potential that dCommerce has to disrupt the world of e-commerce tech giants. I'm Rachel McIntosh, and this is FMTV. Okay, first of all, Justin, I want to thank you once again for coming on the show.
Thank you, Rachel. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and the work that you do?
Sure. So my background is I started out originally. I did a physics degree. I ended up working for a company called Priority Pass, who are around about a $50 million per annum business, just reselling lounge visits as paper and plastic vouchers.
Mm.
And I did a master's in digital quite early, and had the idea of what happens if you digitize those vouchers and basically create digital vouchers that could be used on these kind of emerging mobile apps, etc. And really completed the digital transformation of that business, grew it into almost a $1 billion turnover per annum digital voucher sort of platform. I then did a second master's in blockchain, had a similar idea. What happens if you represent real world products and services as these kind of blockchain vouchers, or as we call them in blockchain tokens. So left that role as MD of the Priority Pass Group, and started started Boson Protocol, and where we are now.
Okay, and tell us a little bit about Boson Protocol. What
Hmm.
exactly is this platform?
Well, in terms of the job it does, you could think of e-commerce as, if you look at the large e-commerce platforms, you can look at them as doing two things really. One is they coordinate they coordinate between a buyer and a seller. So they facilitate and coordinate a transaction. Bringing the buyer and the seller together, handling disputes and reversals. So we also do that. We perform that function.
Mm-hmm.
And then these platforms also, they will take that commerce data and use it, yes, to improve services, but often also hoard that data and use it to compete against the firms that operate on top of them, etc. And so we also we also accrue value to data, but we do that in quite a different way. So whereas centralized e-commerce platforms have a sort of fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders to extract maximum value from participants, Boson Protocol is, as a decentralized protocol, it's set up in such a way that the software prevents capture of by a centralized entity.
Mm-hmm.
And so we will essentially coordinate those transactions without extracting huge amounts of rents from the participants. And we coordinate those transactions in a largely autonomous way by, we've invented a piece of game theory that basically means you don't need an intermediary, and you in most cases don't even need a human arbitrator. So it enables that automation. And then with the data, we store that in a special type of what's called a Web3 data market, but a data market that enables us to monetize that data, but return the value from the data to the community, to the users. So if you imagined, take Facebook, for example, instead of all of the value from our data being separated from us and passed up to Mark Zuckerberg and the shareholders, imagine if all the value from that data was recirculated within Facebook users and you get a fair share. So yeah, that's the job that Bozon performs: coordination of commerce and monetization of commerce data. But the proceeds from those activities get recycled within the users, within the community.
Right. So who are the users? Who is the community?
So the participants on the platform will be sellers. So in the same way as you'd have Amazon, eBay, etc., people that want to sell services, and they would upload and represent those products and services as these tokens, which are like blockchain vouchers, and then connecting with end consumers who could then consume those services. So buy one of these vouchers and then go and redeem it. But also it's a multi-sided platform. So also these vouchers, these tokens, can flow around as completely distinct entities. They're not locked into a closed platform. So in the same way as I can transfer Bitcoin to you, I can transfer a token for a bicycle or a token for a meal, and these will flow around the existing and emerging blockchain and what we call decentralized finance infrastructure, as representing real world things, but in a digital format. And so there's a whole host, a whole ecosystem of participants emerging that can use these tokens.
So are these participants, are they largely based in one sort of geographical location? Who are you seeing who's actually using this?
At the moment we are pre-launch. We're due to
Okay.
launch our first application and core protocol towards the end of Q1. But yeah, I mean, it's a global infrastructure that will enable anywhere. So you could think of it a bit like it's like an internet for transacting and transmitting real world products and services in a format that anyone can join and everyone can trust.
Right. So I wonder, I think that this is extremely relevant right now. There's all, before let alone the events of last week that sort of have the whole world's attention on big tech. There were already, a number of lawsuits that the United States government and other governments around the world were bringing against Amazon, Facebook, regarding the monetization of data. So obviously this is a big problem at the moment, but I'm also wondering, while DeFi and the sort of the dCommerce world is without a doubt growing, how does something like the Boson Protocol, possibly look at competing with something like Amazon in the future?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same question. I mean, I was studying platforms when Amazon was disrupting the big bookstores, and the question was, how could a small startup possibly disrupt, Barnes and Noble in the
Right,
States, I
right.
think, and it was, improbable, but it was the business model, right? And the platform business model of coordinating a massive inventory of stock items with, the long tail with customers was fundamentally better, you had a limit on how many books you could stock in a store, and there were just a number of facets of this business model that were fundamentally better and disrupted. Likewise, there are actually a first crop of dCommerce platforms, and they're exactly that. They're platforms that use blockchain, and they haven't seen much traction, and the reason being that actually Amazon, the technology of Amazon is pretty good for running a platform. But the most disruptive nature of Bozon is we've invented a kind of breakthrough game mechanism that automates away the need for human intervention. But B, we're not applying blockchain technology to a platform. We're actually tokenizing. So if you think we're representing these things, these products and services as these kind of tokens, like almost like entities or stocks, if you like, that can flow around liquid digital marketplaces. So instead of the trades and transactions being performed in a closed platform, it's completely completely liquid. And so you see the impact of liquid digital markets on financial services, the whole host of services that can be bundled and built on top of these things, and these assets then just flowing around and having synthetic products, derivative products. For example, with these thing tokens, sure, you could price the things as having a fixed price, or you could have a market pricing where you could do price discovery on some of these new decentralized finance exchanges, which gives you an enormous potential for yield maximization. Or, for example, we've got platforms like Kickstarter for funding products that in the future. With Boson Protocol, you could do an initial product or initial thing offering where you would launch your token in advance of actually, let's say you wanted to develop a new type of smartwatch, you could go and sell 10,000 tokens for that will give you the right to redeem the token for a watch. And you could do that in advance, so you're sort of raising funds on the platform as well. So having liquid digital markets for things is a very, very disruptive business model compared to closed platforms.
Right, because I guess the sort of the closest available thing that's here now in these DeFi ecosystems is that you have to sort of onboard yourself into the DeFi ecosystem. You can only pay with certain things, like you can have access to a limited number of products, and oftentimes getting the value of those, your DeFi money, so to speak, into your bank account, for example, is a whole it's a hassle to say the least.
Yeah, I mean that kind of off-ramping of crypto assets into the real world. There's a variety of ways you can do that. You can go onto an exchange, and then an exchange to your bank, and then a bank to a credit card, and a credit card to a merchant, etc. And that's a lot of friction. And of course, at every one of those choke points, there's someone taking a fee, right?
Yeah.
But the ability to natively swap monetary value for non-monetary value directly as two tokens. So, for example, one of the applications that we're building is a rewards program that enables like crypto exchanges to offer their customers to differentiate, enhance their propositions by offering customers rewards for real world items. So, they could go and have a meal, or they could go and, have a product sent to them or whatever. And so what Bozon enables is for an exchange to just simply issue a token, and actually a standard cryptocurrency asset, to their customers, and those customers can then go and redeem that for a real world item directly. There's no need to go into the kind of what we call fiat, the traditional bank issued money, before buying real world products and services. And again, combining that direct exchange, that very kind of liquid exchange, with a completely automated redemption process is, massively transformative and enables a whole host of new business models, and plan is an ecosystem of dCommerce applications to be built on top.
Right. So let me make sure that I understand this correctly. So for example, if you had something like Binance, like as you were saying, a cryptocurrency exchange, something like Binance that rewarded its users with a token through the Boson Protocol, and said, and why Binance was like, you can go to, let's say, Starbucks and redeem this Boson Protocol token for a Frappuccino, something like that.
Exactly.
So then, but would Binance have to go then to Starbucks and say, hey, Starbucks, would you be okay with accepting these Boson Protocol tokens uh, in exchange for Frappuccinos? Is that how that would work?
So, I mean, there are a number of options that we could have merchants directly integrating with Boson, or, and this is another one of the kind of what we call like Lego blocks, or simply we can just do a deal with Starbucks so that they would never see any of the blockchain or crypto aspects of it.
So they would just get,
Yeah.
pounds or euro or dollar or
They
whatever.
would, yeah, and it could be completely invisible, and that's on both. So and this kind of speaks to this concept of we're calling a dCommerce stack. So there will be different components. So, for example, components to enable last mile delivery via couriers that would plug in, but also, these on and off ramps are incredibly important because, the blockchain technology is really core backbone technology, and it's not something that lots of sellers and lots of buyers are going to necessarily integrate with.
Right.
So enabling suppliers to have a very familiar API driven interface with which to kind of upload their products and services and receive payment is absolutely key, and then likewise being able to plug into exchanges is very, very key. But natively anyway, Boson Protocol, because it uses standard, cryptocurrencies that we call ERC20 standard, then exchanges can just list the tokens anyway. There's zero integration with any crypto infrastructure.
Okay, very, very cool. So I want to talk a little bit about this term that's on your website, and I think with that we've kind of been talking around it, but decentralized autonomous commerce, which is sort of parallel to decentralized autonomous organization, DAO, this idea that, basically is exactly what it sounds like. Does this term, is this mostly referring to what we discussed earlier about the distribution of data and the profits that data can make, or is this something different?
No, this is more the commerce side. So at the moment, if the two options you have to perform like digital commerce or e-commerce are to have a centralized intermediary running servers and systems, like in Amazon, and that obviously adds, it means you have to trust that intermediary, and it's in that intermediary's interest to extract maximum profit from the network over time, right? Even if they keep prices low until they've got the entire market, the end game is maximum extraction. It has to be. It's, so that's option one, and I think we all agree that the prospect of having our entire commerce infrastructure and supply chain captured by Amazon and Alibaba is not a good one for consumers or firms or even governments, right? So then you've got this second option, which is okay, let's decentralize commerce, but typically that's like a blockchain protocol, and then what happens is if people lock up the payment amount and might lock up some deposits, if something goes wrong, you have to resort to a human arbitrator. So yes, it's decentralized, but it's still very, very, manual. But what we have invented with, is this new game theoretic mechanism, so like an algorithm that enables us to minimize the need for that arbitration. And we've actually got one of the world's top algorithmic game theorists now working on that, and it's a live economic experiment. So Dr. Akaki from ETH Zurich works on that mechanism. So what that enables is, yes, decentralized, but also autonomous. There is no, sort of human intervention for these transactions, and that step change is massive. We've seen wherever we automate to that degree that the things are not just incrementally different, they're fundamentally different, right? I mean, look, for example, email. We don't send 20% more emails. We send maybe 100 times more emails than we ever sent written or typed letters, right?
Yeah.
And so, that automation is critical, because otherwise we're building this huge decentralized web, which is one big, automated system. But to connect it to the real world, we have to have human gatekeepers and human arbitrators. It seems like it breaks a lot of business models, and it's a huge handicap for the decentralized web to have to rely on humans to translate to the real world.
I see. So what is the plan at the moment? You mentioned that the launch is coming in the first quarter of next year. Do you already have partners lined up? Are you, in communication with potential merchants, users, and that sort of thing? What is the next year going to look like for Bozon?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have a fundraising public sale in March. We've already raised about $3.5 million, and that's just funded. It's funding the completion of the core protocol. We've recruited, one of the strongest teams in blockchain, particularly in the whole kind of ecosystem architecture and token engineering of all this core system. And so we will be rolling out a core protocol and then a number of applications. So we're rolling out an application that is, as I mentioned, a crypto rewards application, enabling exchanges to offer customers a gift or buy products and services direct from the exchange. We're developing an application that enables, there's a big trend for artwork represented as digital tokens called NFTs, so digital art, and enabling a physical twin of that, and a physical where you could buy exactly the same type of token and receive a physical artifact, again without any intermediaries, with assured levels of trust and reliability. And then another application we're developing is for in-game items. So if you're playing a video game, it's common now to receive a flaming sword or a special skin or gun. Well, using the same format of digital token, you can actually receive, buy, or earn a physical item as well. So those are some of the applications that we're building currently. But in addition to that, we will be funding a sort of grant and bounty program to build out a lot of these Lego blocks that are required to create what we call this dCommerce stack. So, as I mentioned, connectors to couriers, connectors to payment services providers. So the model is very much an ecosystem play rather than trying to rebuild another e-commerce whale on blockchain.
Right, exactly. So if I'm an investor, how can I get involved with Bozon at this point?
Well, for anyone that's interested, I mean, our website, bosonprotocol.io, or our Telegram group at Boson Protocol are the best places. As and when those opportunities open, we will be informing people. We also have a public sale in March, which will give people an opportunity to become part of the project there, and to look out for some of these programs that we're launching in terms of building on Boson Protocol as a developer or partner organization, becoming a supplier, or becoming a customer or community member.
Fabulous. Justin, I want to thank you so much for your time, and really looking forward to what the next year is going to bring for you guys. You have an open invitation to return whenever you want.
Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it. And yes, look forward to coming back.
Definitely. For more news, events, and podcasts like this one, visit us at financemagnates.com. Thanks for listening.